Welcome back to the show. We're looking at how the internet is being used to show us things that you wouldn't necessarily see in other types of media. And to discuss that, we have with us media consultant from Dawn.com, Nofil Naqvi, and a prominent blogger, Saleem. Thanks so much for joining us. My first question to both of you is, do you think that the internet is becoming an alternative to print media, let's say, or are the same sort of things being covered in both types of media? Or are there things that are being picked up in the blogosphere that you wouldn't necessarily see in the print media, for instance?
I think it's facilitating both things. Sometimes it's just facilitating the story that's already being covered in the print media. Sometimes it's covering new things. So it works both ways, I think. But mostly blogs give you the opportunity to voice your own point of view, which is obviously different from what's being covered in the print media or the mainstream media.
Okay.
Yeah, internet is sort of like replacing all media, actually. Like, for example, in the future, you won't be seeing regular television. Television will be replaced by internet as well. You'll be watching, like, it's slowly happening already. Like on Dawn.com, we're putting video that mostly from DawnNews is coming on the internet. But possibly 10 years from now, DawnNews would be broadcasting through the internet. And the difference between print media and internet media, as far as news is concerned, is that internet is constantly updated. Like Dawn.com is updated constantly. And the newspaper you just see once, and then you have to wait another 24 hours. So, there's a huge difference, and that's why people like to follow it more, because it's constantly updated.
Okay. You've been blogging on mystified justice and I think pro-Pakistan for quite some time now. Are there any stories that you feel that you've focused on in your blog that you think were brushed over maybe in the print media?
Yeah, there was a story that recently happened about this President House, the meetup with the Victory team, and one of our bloggers tweeted about it, and we started a whole campaign against it, about the removal of Qaeda-Azam picture in the main picture that was a championship picture in the President House. We felt that although it was a small thing which wasn't really picked up by media at that time, we felt that it wasn't the right thing, because the presidency not having Qaeda-Azam's picture, especially during that occasion, we felt that wasn't right. That was like the Bhutto clan behind, and we didn't really like that. That was later picked up by the media itself. And then there was this story about violence, sectarian violence in Parachinar. It still hasn't been completely covered in the mainstream media, and the bloggers are still talking about it. We also filed a petition about it, and we fear that there might be sectarian violence if we don't talk about it.
Okay.
So I think that's not been covered as well.
Okay, great. Nofil, you're doing something for Dawn.com that's really interesting. It's something that people haven't really seen before in Pakistan. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, well, it's a series of audio slideshows that we're doing, and it's called Urban Journeys. Now, the concept is that we follow people from different walks of life who are using different modes of transport to their workplace and back. And we follow them and we document their journeys using photography. And then we interview them and we make it an audio slideshow. Now, audio slideshows have become quite popular on the internet. It's a very interesting combination of the visual medium as well as audio.
Actually, what I wanted to know was, what kind of things have you found interesting there? Like, are there sort of, for instance, it's about documenting what people see every day and what they filter out, right?
Yeah, okay, we wanted to explore it, like the questions that we're asking these people. We wanted to use as many different viewpoints as possible. Like, for example, class-wise. Like, for example, if a really rich person is going in his Prado to work every day, and he's going to his factory and site, and he's going to go through shanty towns or whatever you want to call them, kachi abadis. And so how does that make him feel about himself, that he's a privileged person and he's going to his own factory, and then on the way he sees people sleeping on the road, blah, blah, blah. So how does that make him feel? On the other hand, we're talking to somebody who's going to work in a train which is delayed by hours, and it goes through certain affluent neighborhoods possibly, or on the way he sees some rich people. How does that make him feel? So there's class, there's gender. We're trying to explore it from different angles. And each one of these slideshows has been shot by a different photographer from White Star, which is the Dawn Media Group's photography agency. So they represent that particular photographer's point of view as well, aesthetically.
What sort of a role do you think that bloggers played during the emergency over here when there was a clampdown on broadcast media?
I think bloggers played the major role during the clampdown because the media wasn't there. So the only place to access anything or to get information was through blogging. And obviously the global media was, people all around the world were interested in what's going on inside Pakistan. And the blogging community during that time sprung up really well, especially for Pakistan, because it was our duty as citizen journalists or just people to bring about what's happening, whether whatever's been portrayed in the foreign media about us is true or not. Because in cases like such as these, like you look at Iran, when there is no free media, anybody can make up anything about you outside. So it's very important for global integrity of our own country and for our own global representation that we write about or show the true picture of what's actually going on. And it's people would actually believe it more because it's normal people who are writing it and not people in the mainstream media. So there's nothing like government pressure or pressure by any other sources. So yeah.
Do you think that most bloggers consider themselves to be citizen journalists? You know, or are they journalists at all? Or are they just sort of looking to express themselves in some sort of a creative fashion? You know, why not send an entry to a newspaper instead of writing it up in a blog?
If you send something to a newspaper, you are prone to get self-censored. And blogging is more about, I think you're free to say, it's your own space. You're free to say whatever you want to. You're free to say it's not supposed to be morally correct or incorrect or politically correct or incorrect. It's your own opinion.
My last question to both of you is, considering that we now live in a culture that's dominated by the visual medium, are blogs creating any kind of a renaissance for the written word? Are people now reading more online rather than, let's say, watching TV? Or is it just the same kind of people who've always read who are now just reading more?
No, I think that obviously we're not always glued to the television screen. We're not always watching, and with whatever's going around right now, I would really not want to watch television 24/7 because of all the chaos that's been created and everything that's going on, current affairs. So I think if you're going on a blog, it has various things. It talks about current affairs, it talks about entertainment, talks about everything. So I could be in my office or at work or anywhere, and I could just be blogging, going through it before working. So that's the difference. But I think it's a long way for blogging to make that amount of impact on people. But yes, we are getting more people who don't usually follow television to read, and that's thing.
Yeah, I think definitely there would have been a period when the television news became so popular that people were just glued to it constantly, and now I think people have realized that news on the internet is worth it as well, and there's all kinds of individual sources as well as organizations that you can follow. So I think the written word would be making some kind of renaissance with blogging and internet news and all these different things that are becoming popular now.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to take a quick break now, but coming up on the other side, we're going to get the perspective of a blogger from Palestine, so don't go anywhere.